Retro Future.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Bonzard of Radio Retro Future here, giving his opinion on the AI question, which is currently trending on the various places of social media. The two questions is for me that I find important: is AI generated art, and what about its future and its repercussions? And to start with the controversial topic, no, I do not believe that AI generated art is art. And this also comes to the whole heart of the debate, which is artists are referencing existing art, and that's what AI is doing. No, that is not what AI is doing. Stop it. AI directly copies elements of existing pictures that it finds on the internet. If you disconnect an AI off the internet, it will not be able to generate anything, no matter how much items you add in there. If you give it like a picture, it will just produce that picture. It will not be able to do anything new without it, because it completely depends on the input, and that's all an AI does. It's input in, output out. That's what it does. It's not a creative process, unlike other artists. Because when I reference, let's say I'm looking for a particular aesthetic, and I, for example, use images of Victorian prosthetics to create a steampunk cyborg, that's not the same thing as an AI. If I would like input that, I'd probably get something very general, something very abstract. Because that's all most AIs can do. AIs are not that smart, unlike, what we see in science fiction. And when I reference it, like, okay, we play with it, we go through a process of fail and error, and come up with an idea that might or might not work. We work with various ideas, make various concepts, and then we come to a kind of conclusion. This is not the same thing as an AI mixing 3 or 4 images together. And again, they cannot make anything new. It will look new, but it's not. It's all copy-pasted, essentially. So it's not even referencing anymore. But what will this mean for the future? I don't think it will be the revolution that some people think it does. First of all, Photoshop exists. A lot of websites, like for example Amazon, when you want to create a cover for your book, Amazon already provides you with all the necessary elements to do that. And one of the things why Amazon prefers this is because they know it's free of copyright. They are owners of those images, of those shapes, of those formats, of the software, so they know there is no copyright infringement going on whatsoever. Many book covers are already abstract, be they illustrated or photoshopped, like book covers that will contain only one item or a photo, or there are already so many ways to make cheap covers. And then people will say, well, isn't that the same thing? Well, as what AI does, and no, again, because the problem with AI is that it cannot distinguish between copyrighted material and non-copyrighted material. So whenever an AI generates something, as user, you have no idea where it all comes from. That's why a lot of commercial companies are very skittish, very skeptical of using this, because where does all the information come from? Where do all these JPEGs and whatever originate from? Now, what I imagine will happen in the future is that, let's say, a company with its own library of images, let's say Shutterstock, for instance, they can make their own image generator and use that with their own library. Problem with that is that's going to be very limited, because, well, it depends on their own library of stock images. However, you will know that all that is in there you are entitled to because you pay for the service, etc. So I imagine that is going to be the future for AI generated images for commercial use. I think that, like many fads on Facebook, like for instance, there was a period like everyone was using this one portrait maker, which is basically also an image generator. Well, where is it now? well, it's basically forgotten. Like there are some competitors, like Lensa is a new one, but I only seen 2 people use it up to this point. And of course, one of the reasons why it became popular was that, well, it was probably the Russian government pushing that program, yeah, promoting it up the wazoo. Um, and that's the same thing with AI generated images right now. It's like really hot. It's a fad, I suspect, that people will use on the social medias because it's funny. Artists might continue to use it to generate inspiration for their own work, and use it as a reference or get ideas or just blend silly stuff together and see what comes out. And I think there's going to be a very small niche of actual artists using AI generated imagery, but there's still going to be an element of Photoshop in there. I expect that is what's going to happen, and that will also elevate it more into the direction of art. Because there's still a lot of stuff that AI cannot really do. For example, hands. Draw a hand. Hands can do a lot of things. That's where stuff becomes unpredictable, such as fingers and hands. AI becomes really confused. Also, words like two-handed swords. Well, what does a two-handed sword look like to an autistic AI? It's like, okay, well, you have a sword and it has 2 hands, but where do the 2 hands go? So there is like a gazillion possibilities what could come out of search terms like that. Now, people who I do see use AI might be photographers. I've seen photographers do interesting stuff with AI, where they have their own photo, so that solves the copyright problem. And then they add some random stuff in there. It might be copyrighted. You don't know. I have no idea where they get their stuff from. That's one of the major problems. There's clearly a personal touch there that elevates it from, typical AI generated stuff. I think privacy is also going to be an issue. Let's say you post your images to Facebook. Now, when you post to Facebook, Facebook has a right to use those images. That's in their terms of service. So you voluntarily give your photos to Facebook whenever you post on social media. Problem with AI is you have no idea where they get their images from. So they might just draw the picture of your child somewhere from the internet. And then, all of a sudden you have a billboard with your child's picture on it. And they'll say, well, it's AI generated. And that's why I think commercial companies are not going to be very eager to use AI. Because, well, before you know it, they might have, drawn some random person on their next commercial. I myself have not had a lot of luck with AI either. I tried doing some stuff for the Association of Ishtar out of curiosity. And I got some interesting abstract images, nothing I could use for anything. So for a storyteller's tool, it's not very useful unless you are a photographer or an illustrator. And maybe you'll get some interesting stuff with illustrations, but you're already an illustrator, so why would you even bother using AI with that? Again, for references might be something else. Maybe the abstract stuff will generate something that's like, oh, that's a good idea. Maybe. I heard plenty of artists say they use AI generated material to draw inspiration from. But that's referencing. That's a very different thing. Now, when it comes to AI created in outside places like the EU or where copyright law is not particularly in vogue. Copyright law is, by the way, something very dubious to begin with, especially because the people enforcing copyright law are the copyright holders. It's not the state doing that. It's not the court doing that. So first, you have to come across something that you made, and then you can sue the person, which is very expensive, very time-consuming, and quite frankly, why would you even bother? So the whole copyright thing, for commercial companies, it's a whole other stuff because, again, let's use the example of the kid that your child's image might be like appear on national TV or billboards by the highway is a very different matter than someone using a associate of Ishtar in a random image they post to the internet, right? You're not gonna sue. Let's say even if it gets like 1 million likes, well, what do you gain from suing the person? I mean, it would be great to get that attention. That's it, you know. So copyright law, and especially when it's, for example, when Russians would make AI software like this, there's nothing you can do against it because they do not abide to Western copyright laws. So, look at the Witcher versus Elric thing, where, well, there's a lot of arguments that The Witcher is plagiarism of Elric of Meldemonet. Nothing you can do about it. It's not an EU country. It's not in the United States. So there's little Michael Moorcock can do against it. And again, at this point, The Witcher has such a fan following. Yeah, let's face it. Michael Moorcock would be considered to be a selfish dick if he did that. So, yeah, you lose. Everyone loses if that would case. So, copyright is a very dubious thing. I've heard a lot of people say, well, what about all those artists drawing Captain America? Shouldn't they? Isn't that the same thing as AI? Well, again, it's a reference. And copyright law is not something that will affect small businesses, I think. Of course, it depends on the company. Like Games Workshop, they are dicks. They've been trying to sue people for what was it? What they tried to copyright? Yeah, shoulder pauldrons. Shoulder pauldrons. That's what I tried to copyright. I don't think they succeeded, but they are a petty company, and they destroyed their own community because of that. So yeah, we'll see what happens if Henry Cavill creates his Warhammer 40k series. I'm very curious what he'll do with that, I must say. Yeah, I think I summarized my thoughts on this. I felt I had to throw in my opinion there. Not a fan of the AI generated stuff. I think it's not going to be the revolution that a lot of people think it is. I think there's a certain fad element about it that people will get bored with as they chase the next dragon that comes along. There's going to be a select group of, I suspect, artists that are going to work with this, and maybe Shutterstock will create their own little AI to use their existing library of images, so there's no copyright problems. You don't have to trace all the images that are used there. I think a lot of companies are also websites. Are going to secure their users and images. Let's say I know DeviantArt, for example, has an option where it prevents your image from showing up on AI generation software. I'm sure ArtStation has similar measures in thing, and they also make money of that art in some cases. Like DeviantArt has a storefront. So I'm pretty sure that more and more websites. Maybe Wix, even where I host my website, might even have that already. I'm not sure, but I'm positive more and more websites are also going to protect their art. This is a good thing both for AI generated companies, because the risk of their images containing copyrighted material is better, so it's beneficial for them in the end. However, for the users, the output is going to be less and less interesting, because the best images are going to be protected by code or whatever. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a very niche thing. It's going to be used by in ways that you don't even notice it's AI generated, such as commercials, random images you'll find on the internet, product stuff. But even that will require actual photos, actual illustrations to work properly. So it's going to be not so much AI generated art, but AI enhanced art. I think that's where this is going to go. in which case might be interesting. But like Photoshop already has such AI, such as color correction, so it's not a revolution. It's just a new feature, I suspect, rather than an actual thing that can stand on its own. I think you might find Photoshop having. It would be interesting. I think Photoshop might actually get elements like that, where Photoshop will add a random image generator, GIMP maybe even, because well, I think the code is open source for AI images, so GIMP could implement things like that as well. Will a lot of people use it? Well, we'll see. It could be interesting. I think as a feature, it might have a future. I don't think it will have a future as this that will replace existing trends like illustrators or computer artists or 3D artists. I mean, 3D artists also, it's sketchy because they use pre-existing things, a lot of them, like with Dash 3D, but you pay for the feature, so they're covered in that regard. But still, so it already exists. It's just that the human hand is still present in there, and I don't think AI can compete with that in the end. It's not gonna create the next Giger or artist like that. So, yeah. And with that, I'm gonna close it off. I hope I was somewhat coherent in my arguments. And for those who want to support me and support actual art, please follow the link down below by pressing notify me on Kickstarter. I'm trying to reach 50 followers, and that will unlock a new miniature that's going to be available during the campaign. So please help me reach that magical number, and after that, maybe the next tribe is going to be 75, and we'll see what I'm gonna unlock then. Maybe it's going to be a special video explaining a bit of lore of the upcoming book, Bound for the Styx. So I hope to see you there. And of course, you can also subscribe to our website, associationofishtar.com, to stay in the loop of everything we are working on. And yeah, we've got a lot of stuff coming your way. And if we make this Kickstarter a success, yeah, I have a lot of ambition. So please help support it. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bid you adieu. And as always, make things your way.